got to that point. All we know is that that was the last point.
And that's what saved us.
For Tater, the incident carried a poignant reminder.
Good evening. There was an air disaster today in Boston.
As a teen, a friend was killed when the flight she was on crashed into a seawall at Boston's Logan International Airport. The airport is about to begin installing more EMAS pads to prevent planes from skidding into Boston Harbor. The more than $100 million project could delay flights for 2.5 months. Worth it, says Tater and Harrison, whose first grandson was born only weeks after their crash.
We would not have seen him born. There's a very good chance that we would not have survived.
Airport industry advocates say EMAS has proven its worth, but there is a new problem. Some of the earliest versions of these pads are now 20 or 30 years old, meaning they're nearing the end of their useful life, and airports are looking at starting rehabilitation projects. That is an effort one industry executive says will require significant federal money, but also time. Boston's runway shutdown for its new EMAS installation begins in just about 2 weeks on August 31st. The airport says the potential for 75 days of flight delays is necessary for what it calls this critical safety upgrade. Jake, this is a piece of EMAS, and you'll be surprised at how light it is. It's sort of like, I would describe it almost like concrete, and yeah, you're getting some of the chunks there on you. Sorry to schmutz. It's almost like concrete combined with styrofoam. It's really quite incredible, and this is what is so strong. It comes in these big blocks, and they lay them out with a big protective layer on it. And it uses essentially resistive drag is what they call it.
The crust of a pie.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah. That uses sort of this resistive drag to slow an airplane down and stop it pretty efficiently.
The other thing I got for your report is I should be avoiding Logan Airport.
Just for a little while.
When? Now?
August 31st for 75 days. So essentially until before Thanksgiving, when the Thanksgiving rush really kicks off. They're trying to do this so it's not on the peak of summer travel, which it is right now.
All right, Piemontine, thanks so much.
Anytime.
Welcome to the lead. I'm Jake Tapper. This hour, I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan and he died, unquote. Those words spoken in court today by Luigi Mangione, admitting he murdered the CEO of United Healthcare. Mangione also telling the court, quote, I knew what I was doing was illegal, unquote. A CNN reporter who was inside the courtroom for today's hearing joins us live to walk through every detail and why he's confessing. Plus, brand new comments from President Trump about the impact of the Iran war on your wallet. The president saying tonight it's, quote, okay that Americans are paying up to $4 per gallon for gas, if not more. And he'll never apologize for it because the financial toll is worth it in his pursuit of preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Is that a winning message for the midterms? And breaking right now, Hawaii under a statewide emergency as it prepares for the possibility of a rare direct strike from a storm that's forecast to become a hurricane. We'll get an update on the latest forecast from the CNN Weather Center. All of that coming up, but we're going to start in our national lead. In the wake of January's killings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal agents in Minneapolis, the Trump administration then allegedly launched a massive operation to spy on progressive organizations and labor unions and other groups that were protesting the immigration crackdown in Minneapolis. The extent of the surveillance in what was apparently called Operation Puppet Master came into focus yesterday in court papers filed on behalf of one of 15 defendants who were indicted in June, accused of violently impeding immigration enforcement officers in Minneapolis. The documents say that undercover agents with the Homeland Security Investigations Team, quote, posing as protesters or activists, surveilled community meetings at churches, parks, libraries, union halls, schools, and restaurants, unquote. Further, they allege that the undercover agents, quote, actively participated in organizing and directing the groups they were surveilling, organizing and directing them, at times working to entice people into discussing or committing crimes, unquote. The documents also claim that at one church meeting, quote, agents captured license plate information of attendees during a meeting of anti-ICE protesters and activists. Agents then used this information to obtain the names of the attendees, searched social media for pictures of these individuals, and compiled an intel workup that included names, photos, addresses, personal information, including family and employment information, and vehicle registration information for each meeting attendee, unquote. We asked the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota to appear on the show. We did not hear back. The Department of Homeland Security told CNN it does not comment on ongoing investigations or investigative methods. And we're joined right now by Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, a Democrat. Mayor Frey, did you ever know about this huge federal surveillance operation in your city?
Obviously, we knew that we were getting invaded by ICE with 3,000 to 4,000 agents. Obviously, we knew that subpoenas had been issued to people, including me, trying to investigate lawful, legal, constitutional conduct. But no, we did not know that just a few days after the killing of Alex Preddy, an investigation was launched by the Department of Homeland Security, not into the agents that killed Minneapolis residents, but into the Minneapolis residents themselves, with, as far as I can tell, no legal predicate to do so. So there wasn't some sort of underlying unlawful criminal activity that they were looking into. They were going into spaces where there's some belief that there will be privacy, into a like-minded group. And what they're trying to do was, it seemed to be, entrapping people into committing some sort of act that they never committed. Again, these are organizations that were just trying to lawfully document what these ICE agents were doing on the street. And it's deeply concerning. It's borderline unconstitutional.
These revelations came at the request of an attorney who's representing one of the 15 defendants indicted in June and accused of violently impeding immigration enforcement officers in Minneapolis. But listen to what the U.S. attorney said back then when he was asked if any federal officers, any ICE agents or the like, were actually hurt.
Whether or not they actually, at the end of the day, cause bodily harm is not the measure of whether or not they committed a serious federal crime. And I would dare say, we just cannot have in this country all people getting together, engaging in all of these violent acts, and then simply saying, well, nobody got hurt. So how bad could it have been?
Are you saying that no officers were injured?
I'm not saying that.
What did you make of that answer, Mayor Frey?
Well, it sounds like he was accusing people of violent acts without there being any violent conduct. I don't know how you get to that conclusion. But what I find problematic here is they had these agents spying on people and organizations, not based on criminal activity, but because they disagreed with the administration politically. And look, we've seen this before, back when communists were getting investigated, 70 years ago by the FBI. And now, in retrospect, of course, everybody agrees that that was the wrong thing to do then, and it's the wrong thing to do now. There has to be some sort of expectation of privacy in these situations. We need to know that our federal government is using the extraordinary investigative power that they have in a responsible way. And that means that they're also making sure that they're exercising restraint. You can't just go and look into political opponents. You can't go and look into people's speech simply because you don't like it. And then you can't go and issue subpoenas for violent acts and then not be able to point to any violence at all. That's just logic and reasoning.
We last spoke at the end of July at the 6-month anniversary of the shooting of Alex Preddy. We had done an investigation into why all those prosecutors resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office after the Trump administration had told them to investigate Renee Good and her widow and do other things that they found morally reprehensible. Have you heard anything about the progress, if there is any, into the investigations, if there are any, into the shootings of Alex Preddy and Renee Good?
Yeah, I don't have a window into the investigations themselves. We do, of course, know that evidence from the feds have been turned over to our local district attorney, which I think is an important step. But no, I don't have a window beyond that. If I could add one more thing, Jake, one of the concerning parts is the way that these administrative subpoenas have been utilized. Administrative subpoenas is a document that gives you authorization to look into people's stuff without approval from a judge. Normally, when you got a subpoena, you got approval from a judge. In this case, It's the people doing the investigation giving themselves the approval. That's like my daughter giving herself permission to grab a bunch of cookies. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that under the United States Constitution. And I thought that was completely out of bounds, but apparently this administration thinks that it's just fine. That's the way that they feel that they were able to do this, and whether that's a wiretap or that's authorizing an investigation into private meetings at a church or in, God forbid, somebody's living room, that's a big problem.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
We are joined now by representatives of two organizations that were surveilled but never charged. Aru Shania, Executive Director of the Sunrise Movement, and April Verrett, President of the Service Employees International Union, better known as the SEIU. Aru, did you know about this huge alleged surveillance operation before the news of the court filing came out?
We didn't have any idea. I mean, you know, throughout Metro Surge, we were always aware that there was some possibility of that, but the scope of what was going on, we didn't have any clue.
April?
No, Jake. What I know is, like others who read it in the New York Times, and it is absolutely bizarre to me that this type of surveillance is happening in America at a time when protesters were peacefully taking to the streets of Minneapolis to protest the outrageous, horrific murders of Alex Preddy and Megan Good. The organizations that were supporting them were being surveilled and investigated. That's deeply un-American, and it's just wrong. And Americans should be able to exercise their First Amendment rights without being surveilled.
Renee Good, I think you meant to say. Did either of you...
Oh, excuse me, yes.
No problem. Did either of you recall, because this legal filing says that people with Homeland Security investigations who were either doing this surveillance or other individuals working for them were at these meetings and also trying to get people to do illegal things. Do either of you recall anything like that, or have you heard from any of your members saying, oh yeah, I remember this person saying that we should do X? Aru, start with you.
Our members are really thoroughly trained in de-escalation and nonviolence and always holding that line. We are a mass protest movement. We make sure that we're always holding mass nonviolent protests. And, you know, I'm from Minnesota. I'm taking this call from Minneapolis. And I think that is true of just the huge mass response that we saw in Minnesota. By and large was peaceful, by and large was constantly de-escalating people and making sure that we were sticking to the most broad-based nonviolent response possible, because we knew that was what we needed in order to kick ICE out of our city.
April?
Yeah, our members were concerned about peacefully protesting. Our members were concerned about protecting their neighbors. Our members were concerned about making sure children and families have food when they were afraid to leave their homes. They were not concerned about being cajoled or encouraged unlawfully to do things that they knew weren't right. Our folks were about standing up for each other and standing up for their communities. And that's exactly what happened. And we are so proud of our members who took stands in Minnesota.
Aru, your organization is a nonprofit focused on climate change. The court papers say that the Trump administration obtained your organization's financial records and surveilled one of your meetings at the Minneapolis Public Library. What's your reaction to that?
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. This administration is looking for any way to attack anyone who has been critical of them. I mean, if you look at those papers, you also see that they decided to investigate a bike shop. It's not logical. It's trying to take a hammer to any little notion of dissent and trying to scare people. I don't think it's going to work, but they're trying to scare people. So to me, it's a desperate attempt of an administration that knows that it is losing public support and therefore is trying to lash out with all the tools at its disposal to try and scare people away from criticism.
April, the court documents also say that Homeland Security investigators surreptitiously obtained your union's financial records, the SEIU, including years' worth of wire transfers from various financial institutions. Is there anything else you can tell us?
Again, I know what we've read in the papers. I don't want to get ahead of the facts. We're still trying to understand exactly what they obtained, how they obtained it. and not lose the thread of the real story here. That while Americans were protesting horrific, unjust deaths in the streets of their city, we find that they were being surveilled. And the results of that is that today Americans are less secure. Today, families and communities are more afraid. Today, we have a country that feels less democratic, and the price of food hasn't gone down. We have a president that's justifying the skyrocket cost of gas. Our country is in more wars. And we have a government that is tamping down protest. Every American should be deeply
unquote. Those words spoken in court today by Luigi Mangione, admitting he murdered the CEO of United Health.
More than I ever dreamed possible.
Watching my team is too expensive and complicated.
Well, Sling has basketball, baseball, hockey, tennis, and more at a great price.
Huh. Guess I could put this back on.
Sports and more for a great price. Sling lets you do that.
At most Warby Parker stores, you'll find a magical hidden door that leads to something rather amazing. An eye exam. And behind every great exam is a friendly eye doctor. Book your appointment today.
I was tired of sitting on the sidelines. Now, thanks to Jointivia, I'm back in the swing of things. Wait, $70 for a refill?
You gotta try Single Care. Just look up your prescription, show the coupon at the pharmacy, and save.
Really?
Really. Single Care crushes the cost of my prescription, almost as much as I'm crushing Chad.
Unbelievable. See why more people are saving with Single Care. Common side effects include shockingly lower prices, excessive fist bumps, and humbling guys named Chad.
Closed captioning brought to you by Rue La La. Score today's top brands up to 70% off.
At Rue La La, you never pay full price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
In our Law and Justice lead today, the Trump administration, as promised, asked the U.S. Supreme Court to rule on whether they can continue building President Trump's new White House ballroom, whether the White House can continue with that project. Lower courts keep ruling that the $400 million project is illegal because Trump started building without getting congressional approval. Today's nearly 500-page filing contains new renderings of what the finished ballroom will supposedly look like, complete with gold decorations on the outside and the inside. Here to sort out the legal questions is Loyola University law professor Jessica Levinson. Professor, thank you for joining us. Even though the Trump administration keeps losing the court cases, the construction keeps continuing. The administration says they're nearly 65% complete, and it's too late to stop. At a certain point, does that just rule the day?
Well, that shouldn't rule the day, but certainly it's going to play into the reality, which is the Trump administration is saying we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. That, in fact, we're almost there. We're 2/3 of the way there. It's too hard to undo everything that's been done before. Now, having said that, as you know, there are very real separation of powers concerns here. There's a big question as to whether or not Congress authorized the president to undertake this project. And so when it comes to a constitutional harm, in my view, the answer shouldn't be, well, they just went ahead and did it anyway, so let's let this one slide by. Having said that, the Trump administration is seeking emergency relief here. And certainly one of the things that the justices will look to is to see essentially who's going to be most harmed by allowing the construction to continue or forcing it to stop, and what the balance of equities dictates in this case.
Right. And in terms of the emergency relief, I mean, the Trump administration argues that the ballroom is needed for national security reasons, pointing out that there's this huge underground complex. There are also drawings of a drone port on the top of the ballroom. In your opinion, do these national security arguments make the president's case any stronger?
For the below ground construction. And that's why the district court judge in this case said, go ahead and continue with the below ground construction because you, the government, have told me that there are national security issues. You need a bomb shelter and a bunker when it comes to that below ground. But the government had initially said there's a difference between the below ground and above ground. They had said those are distinct. Now the government's argument is really changing tact. And they're saying, with respect to the above ground construction as well, there are national security concerns. I think because this indicates a change in strategy, the Trump administration is not on as strong grounds as it typically would be when any president says, I need this for national security concerns.
Now, you mentioned the argument that Congress needs to authorize the project. And the Congress is supposed to control the purse strings. The Trump administration argues that Congress gave presidents the power to make alterations and improvements to the White House as the president may determine. And they are able to cite precedent, Harry Truman, rebuilding, et cetera, et cetera. What do you make of that argument?
So this obviously is a question that is ever repeating, where it's not just in this situation, but we have in many situations the president saying, Congress gave me the power, and then people challenge that. In this case, what we're looking at, as you mentioned, Congress controls the purse strings, but Congress also has power over federal territory. And the question is whether Congress gave that power away to the president. The president, as you mentioned, is arguing absolutely, because there's a statute that gives me the power to make alterations and improvements. And they're making a big argument. They're saying those words, alteration and improvement, give them the leeway. Is that thus far, judges have said not that statute. That statute doesn't do as much for you as you think it does. It doesn't give you this wholesale power to essentially demolish this much of the White House and to build this ballroom.
Bottom line, how do you think the Roberts U.S. Supreme Court, with the 6-3 majority conservative, how do you think they're going to rule?
So I will answer and not answer your question this way by saying there actually is another argument here that I think would allow the Supreme Court to avoid all of the thorny questions we just talked about, because these are thorny questions. There is a question as to whether or not the National Trust actually has standing to bring this case in the first place. The DC Circuit decision was 2-1. The judge in the dissent said, I don't think anybody has something called legal standing. I don't think they're harmed enough to bring this case. Now, to your question, I think that type of argument is appealing to the Roberts Court because it kind of provides a safety valve. It says, we can go over here. We don't have to tackle the bigger issues. Not to say that they inappropriately avoid those, but to say there is an exit ramp in this case. So look for standing to be kind of a sleeper issue when it comes to the Supreme Court potentially giving emergency relief and then maybe deciding to take up the merits of the case.
All right, folks, you heard it here first. Professor Levinson says $20 on standing. All right, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Hawaii is bracing for a potentially dangerous hurricane this weekend. A look at the latest forecast ahead.
We were obsessed with reptiles. There was a parallel between the people that smuggled reptiles and the people that smuggled the drugs.
It was a cat and mouse game, and there was lots of cheese.
Billy, I need help with the clicker.
Yeah, wait, 1 second, Grandma. This guy's gonna buy my car. Billy, you still there? Okay,
You need Carvana. What's your plate number?
Boss, M-O-V.
Vehicle features, no accidents, right?
No.
Good. Generating offer. Carvana can pick it up tomorrow.
That's an amazing offer. Do you still need help with the clicker?
I'll ask your sister.
Sell your car the easy way with Carvana.
Today we're hiking the exact same trail, same distance and same elevation gain.
But two completely different gear setups and philosophies. One optimized for performance gear,
one built around simple, everyday hiking essentials. The goal is to see what actually improves the experience and why.
So the idea with this setup is that I've really spared no expense and I'm trying to be as comfortable as possible.
I like to keep things simple. My hiking philosophy is to pack things that are comfortable to wear, lightweight, and bring something small like this so I can have whatever I need on me. Today I'm wearing shorts from Athleta. The top is also Athleta, a good water bottle, my fanny pack from Osprey, my boots from Columbia, and a baseball cap.
I have a 35-liter day pack, a fancy...
Our mission is to protect people.
You ready? Danger is part of the job. You afraid? Hell no.
Weeknights on CNN.
Tonight on 360.
The stories that matter.
This whole area is just engulfed in flames.
From a trusted voice.
We witnessed something nobody alive has ever seen before. You said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level jobs. How soon might that happen?
A fearless eyewitness.
We just got a red alert to go down to the bomb shelter.
Every night makes sense of the world. Anderson Cooper 360. Weeknights at 8 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
I grew up skateboarding. Yeah, I still skate. It's weird though, because I'll just look around and realize that I'm just hanging out with a bunch of 14-year-old boys. First time I ever got condoms, I bought a 48-pack. You know how depressing it is the day you graduate high school to throw away 47 condoms?
Hi, I'm Kristen Bell. Millions of kids in America live with hunger every day. But we can change that. Let's give all the kids the chance to grow up healthy and strong.
Go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
CNN This Morning with Audie Cornish. Weekdays at 6 a.m. on CNN.
If your paycheck feels full but shrinks fast, this is the app to save you hundreds. Rocket Money shows you all your spending and subscriptions in one place. Genius. It found me a duplicate subscription I was paying $47 a month for. It's okay, because I canceled the extra one with just a few taps. The app also helps you build a budget based on your spending habits and alerts you when you're overspending. If you're a visual person like me, you'll love this little calendar. It shows you exactly what's coming and when. Download Rocket Money for free and see how you can save.
Breaking news in our national lead, Hawaii. Hawaii is bracing for a potential hurricane this weekend after Tropical Storm Lala's forecast track shifted north. The strengthening storm is increasingly bringing heavy rain, damaging winds, and dangerous surf close to the Big Island. CNN meteorologist Allison Chinchar has the latest forecast. Allison?
Jake, Tropical Storm Lala is expected to strengthen into a hurricane early Saturday morning as it nears the islands. The biggest concern for right now is really how close is it going to get? Will it actually make landfall over the Big Island, or will it just skirt along the southern side? Regardless of how close it gets, heavy rainfall is really going to be the big story here. A lot of those outer bands are expected to bring torrential rainfall to the Big Island, but even some of the other islands as well, as it continues its trek out to the west. The Big Island could be looking at rainfall amounts of a foot or maybe even 15 inches of rain total, but even some of the nearby islands could be looking at 5 to 8 inches of rain as the storm continues to slide by, triggering concerns of not only flooding, but also the potential for mudslides. Flooding has also been a very big concern back on the mainland for states like Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, and unfortunately more rain is expected for the next 24 to 36 hours. You look at how much rain has already fallen across much of the Midwest just since Monday. A lot of these areas picking up 2 or even 3 months worth of rain in just a few short days. And now we're going to be adding more rain on top of it. Through the remainder of the evening, you still have some heavy showers through Illinois and Iowa, but those are going to continue to slide eastward into states like Indiana and Ohio, hard-hit states, even as we continue through the day on Sunday.
Allison Chinchar, thanks so much. Earlier today, Luigi Mangione admitted in court that he shot and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in 2024. There's a catch, though, as to why he admitted this, and we will explain next.
Another day in the finance department. Wait, did we pay this already? 6070 airfare, 6040 meals and entertainment. Receipts, expense reports, invoices, purchase orders. What's that? RAM? Cards with built-in policies. Expenses that submit themselves. Look at it go. Okay, but does it code automatic? Oh. We're fixing the parts of finance you hate. RAM. Love finance.
Here's what you can find out front. Direct,
and raw.
Okay, now we hear the sirens, getting ahead of the biggest stories and giving you context. How important is this moment?
Aaron Burnett out front, weeknights at 7 on CNN, and watch on the CNN app.
The Detour with David Chang premieres September 20th on CNN and next day on the CNN app.
There's no way to know where we're going to land. Penny?
The Source with Caitlin Collins. Weeknights at 9 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
30 seconds.
Wake up.
Breaking overnight.
Catch up.
New details and more questions.
Start your mornings here.
This is a pivotal week.
CNN News Central. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on CNN and watch at 8 on the CNN app.
I am giving away a room makeover. You ever have somebody come home with you from the hardware store? There's a catch, though. 3 days, you have no say in design, and we start today.
All new Crashers, Monday at 10 on HGTV.
Inside Politics with Dana Bash. Weekdays at noon on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
This is the story and the investigation into what was going on behind the scenes.
Do you ever have any moments of doubt about any of it? You have been very reluctant to tell this story. Why come forward?
Johnny Cage, you have been chosen to fight. It's showtime.
Get over here!
The Story Is with Alex Michelson. Weeknights on CNN.
I get to call someone I've looked up to a colleague.
We're two former White House correspondents with a tireless work ethic.
We're ready for whatever comes our way.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown, weekday mornings at 10 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
What was the reaction in the room to what the president had to say?
The mayor says she's going to end veteran homelessness in Los Angeles. Do you think she can do that?
Does this deal at all address Iran's ballistic missile programs?
Fully functional video games have popped up here at the War Memorial.
How do you win over Trump voters?
So this is what I want to tell you.
Watch The Lead, weekdays at 5 on CNN and watch on the CNN app.
Disney Plus, Hulu, and HBO Max. The best in entertainment in one bundle.
This world goes deeper than you imagine.
I hope that's not what you're wearing.
The crown is a weight that crushes.
Get the Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO Max bundle.
Put in the work for Pitbull. Now I'm known as the greatest. Any city, any town, I came to shut it down.
Go handle your business. It's bigger than this. The whole world watching.
Championship level fights every month on TNT.
In our Law and Justice lead, an admission straight from the mouth of the infamous alleged murderer, Luigi Mangione, who today in federal court said he shot United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in 2024. Mangione pleading guilty to federal stalking charges in an effort to try and get state murder and weapons charges dismissed on double jeopardy grounds. Still, legal experts say that Mangione is likely to face a long sentence or even a life sentence from this federal case. Let's go to CNN's Laura Coates and CNN's Kara Scannell, who was in court today. Kara, walk us through this strategy, Mangione pleading guilty to federal stalking charges, and what comes next, and what was it like in court today?
Jake, it was somber inside the courtroom today as Luigi Mangione admitted that he stalked and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. He was very matter-of-fact and very clear when he described that he was suffering from excruciating back pain, found out about the investor conference, and then made a 3D printed gun, magazine, and ammunition and showed up and shot and killed Brian Thompson. And when he described that, Brian Thompson's family was filled with the front row of the courtroom, and his widow became emotional. She was wiping tears from her eyes, grabbing the arm of the woman sitting next to her. This row of family and friends looking over at each other as they were absorbing what Mangione was saying, and he said it without any remorse. Now, after court, his lawyers said that they are going to move to dismiss these state charges of murder and weapons possession. The DA's office already saying that they are going to continue to litigate this to bring justice to Brian Thompson's family. Now, the strategy here, his lawyers are hoping that the federal plea deal will knock out the state case, saying that in double jeopardy in New York says that you can't be prosecuted for the same crime twice. Now, lawyers I've spoke to say that they may have a good argument here, but ultimately it will come down to the state court judge who's overseeing that case. He will make the decision, and whoever doesn't like it will likely appeal. So this could go on for some time, although the trial that's currently set for September 8th is not likely to go forward then. Jake?
Laura, you've been closely following this case. What stands out to you about today's guilty plea, and what do you think might happen next?
Well, the words he said, I shot Brian and I knew what I was doing was illegal and that he died. That was essentially him trying to do away with that state murder trial. Remember, normally a murder charge is in the purview of a state. The feds have the stalking claims as well. But double jeopardy, as you know, it means you can't be tried twice for the same crime. However, in New York, they go a step further, Jake, and they say if the overall substance or the type of the crime we're talking about and the same facts are similar throughout both the federal and the state, then you can actually be tried twice there. It's interesting here because first, a couple weeks ago, he wanted to have a reason by insanity defense. That went away. Then he wanted, as recently as last week, he wanted to have his trial live streamed as opposed to just the opening in the statement if the court would allow that. And now suddenly it's an about face. Ultimately, however, he will likely have the book thrown at him, although there will be the normal sentencing rigmarole where you've got victim impact statements, very important, potentially the statement of the defendant as well, and of course, other interviews done by people in the community to talk about whether he is indeed remorseful or otherwise. So this court has to think about not only the deterrence aspect of this, but also the penal aspect of it, both very, very important. But the state, they want their own day in court on behalf of the family because they do not have, now that he's pled guilty, that murder conviction, although life in prison would likely be the result for both sets of convictions.
All right, so you think that he's likely going to get life in prison for both state and federal?
Yes, as one would when you walk behind somebody and you shoot them in cold blood. Why? Because you have an issue with the industry itself. You see, this court knows full well. We've all watched this horrific video. And although he explained the excruciating back pain, he also, as Kara had reported earlier, talked about having posed as a billionaire investor, finding out exactly where they would be, doing a 3D gun, which for a judge, they're hearing at every single step opportunities to change their mind and save the life of the person that he felt deserved to die.
All right, Karis Connell and Laura Coates, thank you so much. Appreciate it. The federal courtroom in New York City was packed today as Mangione pleaded guilty, but not there any member of Mangione's family. In fact, they've never been to any of Mangione's court appearances. CNN's Danny Freeman takes a look at why.
As Luigi Mangione pleaded guilty in open court to stalking and killing healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, Thompson's family sat nearby in anguish, listening to their loved one's killer.
We all stand in awe of their love for their family and for their friend, and their unwavering commitment to seeing justice done in this case.
In contrast, Mangione's family, once again, did not show up to support the 28-year-old now convicted killer.
There can be no celebrity in assassination.
Since the moment Mangione was identified as the suspect in this case, his family has largely kept quiet and out of the spotlight, never attending any court hearings. The only public statement released by the family coming hours after his arrest in December 2024. Quote, "Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, and we ask people to pray for all involved." Experts say it's very unusual for no relatives to show up in court, even when a defendant's been accused of heinous crimes.
As defense attorneys, we actually contact the family and ask them to show up to all the court hearings because having a family sitting behind a defendant in the first row humanizes them in front of the jury, but also in front of the judge who's making all these pretrial motions about this person.
Mangione's family is well off and from Baltimore. According to the Baltimore Sun, his grandfather built a real estate empire that included nursing home facilities around Maryland and 2 country clubs. The Mangione family also runs a foundation that has nearly $4.5 million in assets and were longtime benefactors of Loyola University, Maryland. And weeks before the shooting, Mangione's mother called in a missing person report for her son, and she told authorities she'd called him repeatedly, but the voicemail was full. During his first court appearance in Pennsylvania, Mangione told a judge he had been in contact with his family, quote, until recently. Now, any chance at being spared life in prison may depend on his family speaking out at sentencing.
Families usually do speak up. They talk about the goodness in somebody, what kind of person they've been in the community before they committed the crime, what kind of backstory they have, what kind of trauma they've had in their lives. And if they don't speak up then all we know about Luigi Mangione is basically what we've seen in the news and what we've read in his so-called manifesto.
And Jake, one other thing that Stacey points out is that if Mangione's family does ultimately speak out at sentencing, they could potentially shed more light on that back injury that Mangione's attorneys spent so much time focusing on today. Meanwhile, the Thompson family, they called the plea, quote, an important step toward justice. And the U.S. attorney noted that they, of course, will have their opportunity to speak during sentencing as well. Jake?
All right, Danny Freeman, thanks so much. The average price of a gallon of gas today, $4.08, according to AAA. But this afternoon, President Trump said, quote, it's okay that Americans are paying more money, and he won't apologize for his decisions that got us to this point. Our panel weighs in next.
12 is 1, okay? It's a relentless attitude. We coming back next year. Let's do what we do, baby. Let's spin. Let's go.
We got to get this on camera right here.
I'm Zendaya, I play Rue, and we are here for the Euphoria premiere. What if he could go back to the beginning?
Oh no, I'm gonna cry.
Every weeknight, we cover it all. Will you take this all the way to the Supreme Court?
I'm not refuting a syllable of what you said.
What do you say to people who are looking to find their voice?
Laura Coates Live, weeknights at 11 on CNN, and watch on the CNN app.
What has made it to your timeline?
Fibermaxing.
You're like, why is this here?
Tan lines.
How did we get here? I'm Audie Cornish.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. Let's invite others to the party.
Engagement Party. New episodes now streaming on the CNN app.
They've risen to the top of the game, playing for different teams. Now they share one, when the U.S. takes on the best in the world for the biggest prize in women's basketball. The FIBA Women's Basketball World Cup 2026 begins September 4th on True TV.
What's happening in the arena? I'll bring you the latest from the players who are actually in the game, because I want answers, and so do you.
The Arena with Casey Hunt, weekdays at 4 on CNN, and watch on the CNN app.
Business Translated, CNN Business.
Bring your heritage, bring your culture, but bring an open mind, because it's America.
This great American story of adventure and exploration changed everything.
All of our ancestors made possible what we have today.
That sense of discovery is one of the best feelings in the world. Delicious.
I realize how nice it is to have the freedom that we have.
250 years ago, America broke from the British Empire. 18 years ago, I did the same. I traded my tartan for a flannel and my corgi for a bald eagle. Not great on walks, but majestic as hell. Now I'm hitting the road to explore everything I love about this great land of ours. What does it really mean to be an American today? Let's find out. Come on, Sam.
Craig Ferguson, American on Purpose. Streaming now on the CNN app.
You guys ready? There's no way to know where we're gonna land.
What just happened? I don't know.
We don't know what's out there.
I don't understand. No one understands. You get any of that?
I got the gist.
It is the biggest upset in sports history.
It's what sport was all about.
Decades in Sports, Sunday at 9 on CNN, and next day on the CNN app.
Newsnight with Abby Phillip, weeknights at 10 on CNN, and watch on the CNN app.
Take a look at this line. It's the average price of gas in the U.S.
We really have a front row seat to all of the action that's happening here.
Excuse my language, gentlemen.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, this week,
Isabel Young looks at the growing interest in performance-enhancing drugs.
So should everyone be enhancing?
Everyone should have the opportunity to enhance.
The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper, Sunday at 8 on CNN.
Several comments today from President Trump top our politics lead. In an event on crime in New York, Trump tackled other topics, including the war in Iran and the impact that the war has had on American consumers, especially at the gas pump.
So, for you to pay a tiny little bit more for your gasoline, just remember, you're doing it so that a very evil country cannot have... A country, really, it's the #1 state sponsor of terror in the world. We don't want to have them have a nuclear weapon. So remember that when you have to pay a little bit more, you're at $4. It's okay. I mean, it's I'll never apologize. I did the right thing.
My panel joins me now. Matt Mowers. So, I have to say, that is made for a Democratic attack ad. Not all of it.
Yeah.
Not the part about Iran and the nukes, but for you to pay a little bit more for the gasoline, cut two, you're at $4. It's okay. I mean, I'm not. I'll never apologize. I did the right thing.
Yeah. Well, look, I think he's explained the cost of conflict, right? I mean, what he's now doing is saying there is a reason that we're all paying more for it right now. What he didn't do, and I think this was actually smart politically, is he didn't try to say, well, it's actually not that high. He didn't try to poo-poo it. He didn't try to dismiss concerns.
He said it's a little bit more. He said a little bit more. That's kind of a poo-poo.
Yeah, but, you know, he was explaining that there is a cost to this and why he's doing it. And look, this is why presidents make tough decisions sometimes. It's also why presidents who are in their last term sometimes make politically unpopular decisions. It's because they don't have to face the electorate again. I truly believe that in his heart of hearts, he felt like Iran was on its pathway to obtaining a nuclear weapon. He had to take action. By the way, that's a calculation every single president for the last 35, 40 years has had to make, which is what's more expensive, the cost of action or inaction? Yeah. Most have said inaction. Donald Trump said he had to take action this time.
But Sabrina, it's probably not. Matt's being diplomatic, but it's probably not the message.
I was at the State Department. I got to be a little diplomatic.
Probably not the message that Republican candidates want the president to be saying with only 80-something days until the midterms.
I think that's right. I think Matt is being very diplomatic, and you talked about costs of this war, and there have been costs. I mean, we have lost service members. Their lives have been lost. That's a cost of this war. We have depleted our munition stocks, including our offensive and defensive weapons. That is a huge cost to this war. And on top of that, now you have the global economy completely upended with the Strait of Hormuz closed, which was open before the war. So I think Donald Trump, when he was speaking about that, I think he was like wrestling with the terms like in real time of like, well, I'm not going to apologize for it, but yes, costs are really high. I think it's a good thing that he acknowledged that. But when are costs going to go down for Americans, for New Yorkers? He was just there in that state campaigning. I think that's the question as people drive to the gas pump is when are my costs going to go down? And with not just at the gas pump, but groceries, electric bills, all of that.
So, right, because the impact of the tariffs, but also the impact of the gas has a residual impact on groceries and such. Speaking of the Strait of Hormuz, which is one of the reasons why gas prices are so high, update on the Strait of Hormuz. Here's President Trump again.
And after we finish defeating Iran, which is being very badly defeated, pretty soon I'll be declaring the Hormuz Strait a territory of the United States.
I mean, look, happened at the Panama Canal. Why not? No, look, I think this is an example going back to the infamous line from 2016. You got to take Donald Trump seriously, not literally. Yeah. I don't think he's planning to just have a bunch of carriers floating there in perpetuity, but he does mean that the U.S. is going to work to ensure that there's ease and freedom of navigation. And by the way,
they could maintain that blockade indefinitely.
Now, well, but America's going to have to because, by the way, he asked the Europeans to step up. They haven't. He's asked Korea and Japan to step up. They didn't. And so it's going to be the U.S. that has to ultimately ensure freedom of movement through the Strait of Hormuz. But I'll tell you, the administration is also...
For how long?
I mean, you saw him say today he's willing to do as long as it takes.
Yeah, and Hegseth said indefinitely.
Definitely, which is just logistically, and you know this from working at the State Department, that is an unrealistic goal. That puts an incredible strain on our military forces to maintain a blockade indefinitely. I mean, I know we'll talk about what's going on in the Lincoln, but that just puts a stress on our sailors and Marines, our aircraft carrier, and it delays maintenance for years.
Yeah, let's talk about that because today we learned about a second U.S. sailor who went overboard a ship about 4 months before another sailor went overboard a different ship, the USS Lincoln. There's been reports of worsening mental health for U.S. service members, deteriorating living conditions. rationing of food. Family members are concerned. We talked to a wife of one of those sailors earlier in the show. Lawmakers now demanding answers. And yet, this is how President Trump reacted when asked about it earlier. Take a listen.
Family members of U.S. service members are concerned about the conditions on board the USS Lincoln.
Well, no, that ship is moving. No, they're not. That ship is moving right now, or very shortly, and it's being replaced with another very similar ship.
Has the deployment's gone on too long?
No. Not nearly long enough.
So first of all, and it kind of gets lost in the not nearly long enough soundbite, but he's asked, family members of U.S. service members are concerned about conditions on board the USS Lincoln, and he said, no, they're not. Yeah, they are. Anyway, Sabrina, you've been on the Lincoln during the Biden administration. It's tough in the best of times, without a war going on, for a deployment of 3 months to be on a ship like that.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to do an embark on the Lincoln, and I can tell you, I mean, these sailors and Marines, they put their lives on the line every single day, and they're excited to be there. They're excited about the mission, and they know what the mission entails. But what it does not entail is there's no end in sight. And for many of these sailors and Marines, they've been out there without a port call for over 200 days. They're living in close quarters in bunk beds, sometimes 3 or 4 stacked. You have the chow boss that has to feed thousands of people every single day.
5,000 on that ship.
Right, that's running short on supplies by not making a port call during that time. So people are stressed. You've had, family members have had babies during this time. And on top of that, they can't just pick up their phone and call their family. They don't even have internet access sometimes. So it's taking a major toll on the force. And I think, it'd be better if the president and Secretary Hegseth acknowledge that these are tough times, but we're going to bring you home.
What do you think of it all?
I mean, look, the challenge the president has is that, especially when it comes to everything in Iran right now, he's communicating to an audience of one, and that's the Iranians. Right, and so if you take Donald Trump's natural
needs to communicate back.
Well, but I'll just say, if you take Donald Trump's natural ethos of toughness, right, never admitting fault, never showing weakness, and that's part of who he is, tied in with the fact that he is doing everything he can and believes that he needs to intimidate the Iranians. He wants to show no remorse, no introspection, just full-fledged ahead, bombs and missiles, and that's his belief. And by the way, to some degree, I think most folks would say that's what it's going to take. You have to show Iran that you're in it for the long haul regardless. The challenge is some of the sympathy that's going to be required gets lost in that. And so that's the challenge I think he's facing, is that he's not necessarily communicating every day for an American audience. He's communicating for an adversarial audience. And wants the Iranians to know he's not going to give up in this conflict. He's going to see it through, and it's going to be as tough as it takes and withstand political pressure domestically in order to actually accomplish that goal.
One of the questions is, I think, that the acting Secretary of the Navy, Hung Cao, had a town hall with a bunch of families in San Diego about a week ago, in which they complained about a lot of these issues. This is before the story broke.
Right.
So the question is, did Hung Cao not tell Hegseth? Did Hegseth not tell Trump? Is this all just kind of like baked in as war is hell and our soldiers and sailors and Marines go through stuff? That's a question I think needs answering.
I do think the Secretary was probably aware. I think U.S. Central Command and Admiral Brad Cooper that runs Central Command was... These things get flagged internally, especially when there is someone that goes overboard. That gets flagged immediately for the Secretary. So I think I'd find it hard to believe that the Secretary didn't know about it. I don't know if the president knew, but I think this just shows that, when you're trying to downplay some of the turmoil that's happening and some of the long-term deployments that our troops are going through, you really can't downplay it to their families. I mean, they're having these town halls, they're asking for questions. You need to be responsive to them.
Thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. What we're learning about the release of an American missionary who was freed more than 9 months after being kidnapped in Niger. That's next.
Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order.
This one is kicking my butt, but persevering because I have to sweat for science. Summers are only getting hotter, which means what you wear starts to matter a lot more. Some shirts are specifically designed to keep you cool and dry. But when you're actually out here sweating, do they really make a difference? Today, I'm testing some of the most popular materials that claim to keep you cool. Bamboo, merino wool, hemp, polyester, and a polynylon blend that's infused with graphene. To see which material is truly the best, I'm going to run every single hoodie through some controlled tests here at home. Then I'm going to wear each one outside on the same hike to see which one performs the best in real life conditions. But what makes clothes cooling anyway? I talked to Ramona Walsh and Jess Hargett, two material and design experts from Outdoor Research, to find out.
What makes a garment?
The CNN Weather app. Get weather updates from a name you trust. Stay a step ahead with fast, reliable data, interactive radar, and live video coverage when you need it most. The future of forecasting is here. Download CNN Weather today.
Our last lead start in our Law and Justice lead. The second double murder trial of Alec Murdaugh will be moved out of his home county over concerns that he can't get a fair trial in his home county. Murdaugh had actually been convicted of murder in the 2021 shootings of his wife Maggie and 22-year-old son Paul. But the South Carolina Supreme Court overturned the convictions in May over what it said were improper interactions between a clerk and the jury. In our world lead, a former University of Cambridge professor accused of plagiarism was found dead today in London, just days after resigning from his job. Jason Arday was celebrated as the youngest ever black professor at Cambridge until last month. Allegations of plagiarism and questions surrounding claims he'd made about his athletic and funding accomplishments led to his resignation. The university says it's, quote, desperately saddened to hear the tragic news. In our world lead, an American missionary who was held captive in Niger for 9 months has been released, his organization announced today. Kevin Rideout was turned over to U.S. officials and will soon be reunited with his family. He was kidnapped last October from outside his home and taken to an area where Islamist terrorists are active. And our money lead, if you're an American who's been pulling back on your retail spending, you're in good company. Retail sales fell 0.6% in July, the steepest drop since May 2025. Both reports came in worse than economic had estimated in polls by the data firm FactSet. Coming up Sunday on State of the Union, Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana and Maryland Governor Wes Moore, a Democrat. That's Sunday at 9 a.m. and noon Eastern on CNN. Aaron Burnett Out Front starts now. I'll see you Sunday morning.